Well, good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Tom Schlueter with today's Tom's Take. It's good to be back with you. Had a very, very powerful weekend. My wife Kay and I did up in Maryland. We were at Hope Christian Church, which is overseen by Apostle Michelle Jackson. She is the daughter of our very good friend Harry Jackson, Bishop Harry Jackson, who passed away about 5 years ago. We had a powerful time up there with her ministering a tribunal. Now, I've taught on tribunals, so I'm not going to do that during this session, but it is obviously a time when we bring people together in order to legislate, to decree, to make declarations that God is releasing to His sons and daughters that need to be released at significant points of time, in significant places, in order to bring about what He desires to manifest in our world. The time is now. The time is now. In August of 2024, we were having a leadership meeting, advance, with our large council that makes up the leadership of Texas Apostolic Prayer Network. We were at a small town here just south of Dallas, and Dutch Sheets was with us, Clay Nash, Greg Hood. And the Lord had been speaking to me about 3 or 4 weeks prior to that meeting. He just kept on speaking to me saying, now is the time, or the time is now. It just kept on emphasizing the time is now, the time is now. As I pondered that and meditated on it and kept on praying on it, I just was looking for God to bring further revelation to what He was referring to as far as that time and the season that we were in. As we met at our advance, I noticed that Dutch, before he spoke, was sitting on one of the front pews of the church, and he was gazing at a banner poster thing that we have that has 2 very specific words that he and Chuck Pierce gave the state of Texas on their 50-state tour back in December of 2003, 21 years prior to that. As we met with the meeting and Dutch started speaking, he said, I'm realizing that the time is now. Wow, that was confirmation. But still not quite sure what the Lord was referring to until He unraveled the mystery for us and said that 21 years represents a threefold cord of 3 7-year periods. 7 meaning covenant, completion, things coming into right order. And a threefold cord, that which emphasizes the fact that it is now time. It's strong. It's ready to carry out what it needs to carry out. And so that's what led us into 2025. As those words that Chuck and Dutch spoke to us became vibrantly alive in our midst. Well, why am I mentioning that? Because the same word started coming out as we made preparations for the tribunal that was up in Maryland. And what was significant about the Maryland tribunal is that there were 5 states, plus Washington, D.C., that were represented at this meeting. I'm going to probably miss a state, but it was Virginia and Pennsylvania and Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, I think I got them all, and Washington, D.C., and obviously Texas was there. We gathered together because the Lord had spoken to them that the time is now. Well, interestingly, I started researching a little bit, and I looked up out of the same book, The Prophetic Destiny of the 50 States, that was written by Dutch and Chuck. And their tour took place on March 4th through 5th of 2004, 21 years ago. The Lord began to speak to me that the time is now. Prior to going up to the meeting there in Maryland, the Lord had been speaking to me a phrase, and I was just trying to seek out the context of it. But He said it's a birthing season, or even a rebirthing season. And I put it in the context of, well, now is the time for that rebirth to take place, or that birthing to take place. Whichever it's called, birthing or rebirthing, God is bringing something out. And its time is linked again, I believe, to this threefold cord of 3 7-year periods. As we arrived there in Maryland, we had such a wonderful fellowship with, I'm not even sure how many people were there. I think there was probably somewhere between 60 to 75 people that were attending from all these states. It was a powerful time of covenant with these states together, and they all knew that there was something extremely important about the timing and about the words that God had spoken for that region, but was really highlighted on what he needed to do in Maryland. This church, by the way, is not many miles away, probably about 20 miles away from Washington, D.C. So it gave us a very good perspective of being able to speak into the nation out of what God was declaring, or what he needed to declare, out of Maryland. Then I was surprised because my good friend Ann Tate was also sharing the teaching responsibility with me. And on Friday night when she started teaching, she said there is a womb that needs to be opened up here. A rebirth, a birthing. Then on top of that, we were being obedient to what Chuck Pierce had spoken the Sunday prior about the 7 days that needed to be given over to praise in order that God could carry out his destiny for the nation. And destiny bringing an end to the fingers that the enemy had on some of our prophetic promises that need to now be broken off, and these fingers need to be broken off so that the destiny can be released, or can we say birthed. So when we started doing the tribunal on Saturday, it wasn't surprising that the Lord said, I want you to make all your decrees, or most of your decrees, as decrees or declarations of praise. Because praise brings forth the birth. Praise, one person got up and they had a prophetic revelation that our praises were causing the cervix to open so that the birth could take place. Another person had gotten up and they were hearing the word push. Can't make this stuff up. God is in the process of birthing something, and he was going to be doing it in Maryland this weekend that we were there. Maryland, by the way, is one of those states that's called the womb of the nation, much like some of the other states that represent the early covenantal roots of who we are as a nation. God is wanting to birth something. While we were there, I got reconnected with good friends, Robert and Annette Stagmar. They are the apostolic leaders of the network there in Maryland area. They've been doing this for decades. And he gave me a copy of his book, which was about the prophetic destiny of Maryland. And as I was reviewing it on Friday night before going over on Saturday to start the tribunal, I noticed one chapter was dealing with, the rebirthing of a nation, the rebirthing process that needed to take place. Let me read a little bit from the Kindle version of this book, this prophetic destiny of the 50 states, that Dutch and Chuck have written along with Dutch's brother Tim. And this is regarding Maryland. Again, these words were given in March of 2004, 21 years ago. The 50-state tour theme that was released, and I just read this 30 minutes ago before coming in to do this. The phrase that defined their gathering was, I will awaken the seed. Amen. Chuck, during the meeting, shared, I saw embers arising in the sky over Maryland. and that the fire of God was dwelling over this state, and that which once was would come back double. I think that's talking about rebirthing. He continued by prophesying there is much dammed up in Maryland. In other words, the cervix needs to open up. And that as a sign from the Lord, a physical dam would break in that state. I'm not aware if that ever happened, but the sensing of something having to break open to bring forth life again. Then Dutch began to minister, and he shared that the Lord had said, here we are, I am going to awaken the seed and open the womb. There was such a powerful anointing that we actually moved back into worship. There we are, praise, for the rest of the evening. Interestingly, the charter of this state declares that it is the duty of Maryland to worship. We certainly did that on Thursday evening. They were speaking back in 2004. On Friday morning, Chuck taught on the captain of the host. He then prophesied the captain of the host will stand in the midst of the state. Maryland is a state that has drawn the line in the past, and now again, I can't get over this, and now again, in 9 months, you will see great conflict occurring and my people standing. Wow. 9 months, womb, seed, pushing forth, worship, bringing it forth. Isn't it amazing and wonderful when God just seems to set the stage for something? I was just excited several months back when some of the leaders up there had contacted me and said, hey, we've heard about tribunals, we've read your book, we've now read the new book, Analyze and Execute. We really want you to come up, and we've invited Ann to come up as well. And I said, man, I'm ready. Let's just set the date. And so months ago, we set this date, this past weekend, to be there. Little did we know that it was going to fall into the midst of the timing of the 7 days of praise. Little did we know that it was going to come in a serious moment in our nation's history following the longest shutdown of our government. The enemy holding fingers on our nation and keeping it from moving ahead. We were a little bit concerned about that because with the shutdown, air travel, air traffic controllers, all of those issues, TSA agents, they weren't being paid. Flights were being canceled or delayed. And I thought, Lord, if you want us there, you're going to have to make a way for us. So we just prayed into that. I was a little concerned because I thought, I don't know what we're going to do if our flight gets canceled because we've been planning this for months. The day before we were supposed to leave, we left last Thursday. The day before we left, I got a text from Southwest Airlines. Your flight has been canceled. But click this link and we will be able to line you up with another flight that you can take. And I thought, oh my goodness. I was a little concerned because there weren't a lot of non-stops, and I didn't want to go through a lot of stops to get to D.C. and then back, because that's where luggage gets tied up. That's where delays take place. But I opened it up, and lo and behold, there was a flight out earlier on the day that we were going to leave at 10:30 in the morning rather than 2:30. And they've been saying, hey, it's much better to leave earlier in the day when the flights have not yet backed up with a lot of delays. And then our flight back on Sunday was going to be at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I signed up for both of them. I don't want to tell much more of that story other than this. We had no delays. We had no more cancellations. We had no issues with our luggage. Matter of fact, on the way back, Kay and I had the advantage of being the first two people on a plane that was about 1/3 full. So we were able actually to stretch out. And when we arrived in Love Field, where many times you have to wait 30, 45 minutes for that luggage to make it from the airplane, it came out in about 20 minutes, and our 2 pieces of luggage were the first 2 out. It just kept on giving us signs that God said, I want you to know what favor I've had on this time, which is right now. So if you will, from Texas here, we're going to continue to pray into and decree that the right time has happened in Maryland and these other states. This portion of our nation, which is the womb, will see a rebirth. And we will decree life. We will decree purpose. We will decree destiny back into these states and from these states into our nation's capital. It is a marvelous time to be alive. God has his hand on this, and he set the stage for us starting 21 years ago. He is so amazing. Well, blessings to all of you. I'll be with you again tomorrow.